All right.
Welcome to Make Your Own Fun. I'm here with Shannon Lynette. She, the author of Awkward Years. Congratulations on that.
Thank
Lady
you.
in a Wire, A Place with No Name, to name a few. And our sponsor today, on today's episode, is coffee. Hold on. Wait. Coffee. It's give a fuck in a cup.
I like it.
Yeah. All right. So how are you?
I'm doing great. Very
Awesome.
good.
I love that painting. Is that yours? Did you paint that?
Actually, it's a painting of me. A friend of mine who's a wonderful artist painted it for me, actually.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I actually stayed up and was responsible, and I wrote some questions. We'll see if they're any good.
All right.
So how do you feel that the area of New York that you live in has kind of influenced your writing? Because I know it's not New York City, it's closer to Albany, right?
Right. Yep, we're upstate. Well, this is where I grew up. So not necessarily Albany, but I grew up in the country. So there was not much to do. So you had to kind
That's
of
for the best sometimes, right?
Right. So you had to make your own fun. So yeah, so I would find myself writing about people I would hang out with, places. I was a big daydreamer. So that's what I did. And I started writing at about somewhere between 11, 12 years old. So that's what I would do. I would just find time to write and explore the outside. We had a backyard, huge backyard, tons of woods. So that's what we would do, just hang out outside, write, and yeah. So it really did influence my writing a lot.
I myself am from a smaller town just outside of Kent, Ohio, where the university is. And I just remember growing up, like, you always wanted to go into town and be where the cool college kids were out doing stuff. But, you know, when you're like younger or like even a teenager, it's like you can't get into those places and do those things. So your friends have to, like, especially like before you get your first job and stuff, you're just looking to kill time. I mean, that's why I remember when the 70s show came out, I was like, yeah, even though it was like the 90s, I was like, yeah. I remember sitting in a lot of people's basements, just like bored, but
yes,
you didn't know what else to do. There was no,
right.
I mean, I think there was the internet, but people weren't like obsessed with it, you know?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I thought about this too, because the weather's kind of getting nicer now. We're kind of getting into summer. This is something I found. I think you might be totally different, but I feel like hiking, like going out in nature by yourself or with somebody else, can like lead to poems or inspire you to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
But not camping. I feel like when you're camping and you're with like 5 or 6 other people, there's just too much going on, too many conversations. Yes. It's just, so what's your experience like with that?
You know what? I try to do a lot of hiking, but you are right. When you're hiking, you're kind of in a different mindset with nature and things like that, and trying to, absorb what's around you. So that does make sense to get a lot of writing in when you're doing that. Camping, there is a lot of chaos. I personally don't think it's much in a relaxing setting. And I can't even tell you, I've done a lot of camping and I don't think I've ever written anything while doing so.
I feel like the camping kind of shenanigans is more like the short stories that like John Hughes used to write about his childhood that became like National Lampoon movies and stuff. So it's just like too much. But I mean, it's like, I keep thinking like, I just haven't been camping in years. Like if I try to go, maybe that'll inspire something. But you just have that group of people where there's always somebody talking or looking or yelling or there's music. But
right.
Okay, so I haven't asked anybody this one for a while. So do you have any poetry themed tattoos?
I do, actually.
You don't have to show us. Some people were like, well, kind of, but I'm like, hey, it's whatever you want to do.
Yes, believe me, you don't want to see them. But yes, I do.
A lot of people are like, yeah, I got them. Like, do you ever get them? no, but I did other stuff that night and I was pretty wasted. Like, okay, I kind of see where this is going. Like, you're probably on like some kind of spring break thing, and they're like, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It tends to go that way.
Here's one, and I haven't done this for a while. And I thought of this was kind of, a lot of people can relate to this, but especially coming out of the pandemic, now we're just so like gung ho to get out and do things and go places and meet up. Do you, as a writer, cancel get-togethers you have planned if you're kind of like on a roll with your writing? Are you ever like, oh, I can't wait to get together and do stuff with friends or have plans, and all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 days in a row, you're like, I have so many ideas, like, oh my God, like, just sorry, I can't make it. Does that ever happen?
Oddly, no, I've never had to do that. Actually, I just kind of go to wherever it is I need to go, and I just keep continuing writing. Writing can pop up anywhere for me, anywhere, and I just do it. It doesn't matter where I am. I could be in a bar, I could be at a family gathering, important meeting. That's actually happened. Yeah, I just plug it into my phone and just keep writing. I've never actually had to cancel plans. However, I have canceled plans for tattoo appointments. That I have done.
You're like, not today. I'll put this out there because this kind of covers everything, every kind of creative writing. But I personally believe that not every breakup or bad day should lead to a poem. How do you feel about that?
That is true.
I mean, we've all written that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But I mean, at a certain point, I want to like not shake her, but like have like a conversation with Taylor Swift and being like, you're kind of going down a road, lady. Like, no one's gonna want to talk to you or date you because it's gonna end up
right. It keeps getting repeated.
But that also begs the question, and it's like we all write about what happens in our lives and everything, like our day to day. But I've never had a point where I have put anybody's name, unless they're like a fictitious person or I'm people watching or something. But like a real person, I've never put their name in it. Have you done that? Have you? I mean,
yes.
Like something that's been published?
Yes.
Holy cow.
I have, but I did it
That's ballsy, man. That's really the person find out?
I don't know.
You're like, oh no, don't care.
If they have, I hadn't heard about it.
You're like, it's all good.
Yeah, actually in one of my books, I wrote, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I was cheated on, and with my ex, obviously. And I wrote a poem about her. And if you read the poem, I spelled out her first and last name in bold letters through the poem.
Oh, snap.
Yes.
I can only imagine if I was that person, I'd be like, yep, I fucked up and now it's forever.
It's right there. And I writing it, I thought, would I be sued for this? But I'm like, this name could be anybody. So I just.
Oh yeah, if it's just like a first name.
Right, no problem. No, it's definitely a first and a last name.
Wow. I mean, I
don't play around. I just do it. It's whatever.
You're just like, there's the naughty list, and then there's the shit list, and then there's Shannon's list.
Yes.
Okay, well, here's a good one. Have you ever been struck by inspiration when you're out with family or friends at a cafe or a restaurant or something, and you're sitting across the table from somebody, and that kind of like lightning bolt zygote kind of lands in your brain, and you're talking or listening, and all of a sudden it's just like, pen, and you kind of napkin or pen or your phone or something.
Yes, I've done napkins, phones, anything I can grab to write something down on.
And that person across the table was like, are you having a stroke? Are you okay? And
yes.
Like,
I do it
sometimes
with
it's
family,
horrible.
friends.
Like I remember being at a cafe or something a couple of years ago, with some friends, and like my brain wouldn't let me move on from it, and I literally had to like stand next to the waitress and wait for her to finish taking an order, because she was just like, and like, and it's like, that was, I think that was before you could do the notes on the phone. Thank
Right.
God they have that for people like me who are just socially inadequate when it comes to like when I was younger, I used to carry, you probably did too, like some kind of a notepad or something, or keep it in your car or whatever. But there's
Yes.
just sometimes there's those situations where you, I don't know, get gifted something and you're like, thank you, and then you're like, help me.
Oh yes, there's been many times of that.
Hopefully not as awkward as that. So here's a good discussion topic. What do you think the pros and cons of chapbooks versus like full manuscripts are? Because I feel like chapbooks are kind of making a bit of a comeback.
Yeah, it's funny because I've never done one. I've never done a chapbook. I've been kind of thinking about it because I've never done one. For me, myself, I would rather just do, a whole entire collection. I think it better fits me and what I'm doing and what, my books represent. But, I think it's great that chapbooks are making a comeback. I think it's a big opportunity for a lot of poets. And yeah, it's just kind of what you're into. So we'll see. Maybe I'll come out with a few. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, me personally, I feel like if you have enough quality poems for like a full manuscript, I say go for it, submit it out there. But I had never even heard of a chapbook until I moved to LA, and it was like all the rage where people were just taking those 9 by 12 pages, turning them outside, going to like a FedEx Kinko's, putting your own artwork on it. So you had something to sell at your readings and your open mics and stuff. Because if no one knows you when you're starting out, that's like the only way to really,
Right.
This was like before people were really like advertising stuff online and stuff like that. But
right.
like when I think about now though, or like moving forward, I think I will do like a chapbook if it's like a certain theme of like, I wrote these when I was on vacation here, these 15 or 20 poems or something. Or it's just like, these are the poems about this one subject, where I feel like a manuscript is kind of like maybe
Right.
the last
it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah, your last like 2-3 years of your life, and you just like cherry pick the best stuff. But so in your neck of the woods, do you have like local readings that you go to or workshops?
Well, this is the fun thing about me. I have horrible social anxiety and stage fright. So I used to do readings all the time years ago. And then I decided there's no way I can do this. So I've kind of stepped back from the scene a little bit. And then I got into this huge writer block thing. And then I really actually just recently got started into it again. So I've been thinking about getting into doing that, like forcing myself to do it. But we will see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know this sounds like I'm talking out of my keister, but just the way you kind of come across, it's like so effortless. You're like, you have so much charisma and charm that I'm sure you stand at a podium with a book or something and people are going to love you. I'm sure you've done it before. So
oh, absolutely I have.
Love me. Absolutely.
It's just awful. I hate it. I just hate everybody staring at me.
I hate when people just throw adulation my way. I'm like, again.
I think a lot of it too is because a lot of my poetry, it's almost like journal entries. So it's a lot about me personally, my life, the people I hang out with. So I think that has a lot to do with it. But we'll see.
I mean, that's a chapbook right there. It could just be like the diary poems. Or just like, you go on a trip and it's just like a picture of you on the back cover and you're just like writing.
Yes, I like that. You're giving me ideas.
You strike me as someone who is really, really into music.
I am.
How do you think that has influenced like I don't know if some people you have to have like music on at their home when they write, or maybe like when you were younger, were there like certain singer songwriters that you were like really into their lyrics and that became like a gateway for poetry for you?
Music is a huge influence. I do always have music going when I'm writing. I think it just gets the juices flowing. And I listen to pretty much everything. I love anything except country. Sorry.
What? Oh, sorry.
I hate country. I hate it with a passion. But I
mean,
really
even like the great like storyteller stuff, like I'm not a big country person anyway, but like in the 90s when Rick Rubin was working with Johnny Cash,
yeah,
that's some powerful stuff. Now he was doing like a lot of covers,
right.
but like he really like transformed a lot of that stuff, you know.
Yeah, I just can't do it.
I'm not a big country person either, but like the older I get, the more I'm like, okay, I kind of you know, you step back and you kind of see how it's all connected, like rock and roll, it's like country, bluegrass, R&B, blues. I mean,
Makes
where would
sense.
we be without the blues, honestly? So
yeah, I think I believe poetry and music kind of go hand in hand. It's kind of the same thing, really. So music is definitely a big influence.
here's one for you. So are there any singers or musicians or bands that when you were younger you were like it was like too visceral or you couldn't get into it, and now after a few years you're just like, this is genius?
Nothing that really sticks out, because like I said, I listen to literally everything. So
I'll give you an example. Like, but I think when I was growing up, like in the 80s, like Elvis Costello was kind of going through like a fallow period, and I was like, yeah, he's meh or whatever. And then in the last like 10 years, I'm like, he's the guy's working with like everybody from like Burt Bacharach to like the Roots.
right. Yeah.
And that's somebody I appreciate. Like that guy can write some lyrics. Like holy cow. So there's nobody you can think of that when you were younger you were like wrote them off?
Not really. I was a huge Madonna fan, Cyndi Lauper fan. When I was 10 years old, their albums were like the first ones I bought myself with my, allowance. So that was the kind of music I was really into when I was little. I love that stuff. I actually like the hair bands, you name it. I listened to them. That was my thing when I was younger.
I think the first cassette, totally dating me, the first cassette that I bought with like allowance money was the soundtrack from Miami Vice.
Oh God.
And I just remember being like, there's so many great bands on here. Oh, my friends are gonna be so jealous. And I played it for them and they're like, who's Tina Turner? I'm like, I don't know. Like, who's this? Who's Bill Collins? I'm like, I don't know. It's just, it rocks, okay? So when you're a kid, you're just like, it's all about the cool factor and about like holding the cover up and like, they're just, with their short sleeve suits and you're like, yeah. And then now you're like, no.
Right, no.
Let's see here. So to kind of piggyback on what I was saying earlier about like hiking, let's take that one a step further and say, do you ever like leave the town that you're in and just go a few towns over to write just for like inspiration, just to kind of, get out of your comfort zone, just take a notepad or something and just give yourself like a few hours or half a day? Like I love going to like what I call like one tank trips. And going up like the coast of California or even like into the interior to like small little towns that I'm sure I've heard of them before, seen them on a map, but to go there and go to like a local cafe or a restaurant or just some place that's got like benches and a public park and just to get that world coming in feeling, because I think that a lot of people went through this. I know I did, like during the latter stages of the lockdown, was like, man, I've written everything I wanted to do and finished all my projects. Like I need to have like new life experiences, because it's just like, I don't want to be like day 417 in my pajamas on the couch drinking box wine, eating ice cream, watching Netflix. Like when will they put more special features? I've seen these 8 movies already. So do you do that? Do you ever like take yourself out of your comfort zone?
I do, and I actually just did that a week or so ago. I went to a park around here and just sat there with my dogs, and that's exactly what I was doing. It's really great to do that, and you have to do that. You do need new environments and surroundings to get inspiration to write, and I feel fresh air is really great for that. So I do it all the time.
I feel like even going to like a diner or a cafe, it's
Mhm.
not even so much maybe that I haven't been there or don't know the people. It's like that white noise going on in the background because so much, either during the lockdown, everybody having to work from home or whatever, you just get cut off from the world, and it's like people got so paranoid about letting the world in because of germs and everything. And now
Yeah.
I think it's like we have to, like, we've all been vaccinated, hopefully, and all that jazz. It's like we got to get back out there and let the world in and have those like face to face
Mhm.
interactions, because it's like that's how we kind of grow. I feel that how we kind
Oh,
of grow as
absolutely.
people. It's like you don't really learn. How do I phrase this? But I'm at cap here. Um, I kind of feel like other people, well, there's that expression that hell is other people, but I think the opposite of that is you never see yourself reflected more honestly than in the face of like a stranger.
Mhm. That is correct.
Because your
Mhm.
friends and family are going to be like, you're the best, as you've got, spinach in your teeth and a booger hanging out of your nose, like,
Right,
you're awesome.
right.
But when you're out with like people you don't know, um, I also feel this too, and maybe you'll agree with this. Um, when you're out there in the wild or whatever, and you've got your notebook and you're sitting there and you're writing, you don't mean to, but sometimes you'll just people watch, or even better, you'll hear conversations and you'll hear
Mhm.
snippets of stuff. And I
Mhm.
kind of feel with poetry that there is equal parts like idiocracy happening around you, 50%, and there's equal parts things you're hearing are really profound between
Mhm.
people being idiots and people being profound, and then somewhere in the middle there's poetry.
Mhm. Oh,
So
absolutely.
that's just. So do you have any experiences about that where you've been out and all of a sudden you just hear something or you experience something and you're like going in the notebook? Have you had
All the
that?
time.
Yeah.
That's most of my writing. I love writing about people.
Okay, well, here's a related topic. Oh, excuse me. I need more writer fuel. Open mics versus Zoom chats. Now, we've been forced to do Zoom chats over the last 2 years. Um, you talked about the open mics, but
Mhm.
how are you planning on, because I think that the Awkward Years is like your newest collection, right?
It is. Yep.
So how are you gonna promote that other than my curly mug and coffee?
That's a good question. Like I said, I'm going to actually force myself to get out there. I've been too busy right now. The book actually just came out just a few weeks ago, so it's very fresh. So I just have to plan and set stuff up to go do that. So, but I definitely going to be forcing myself to get out there.
Is it possible, I know we didn't talk about this, that you might have a copy of the book handy that you might want to read a poem? Look at that, folks. She's a pro. Seriously, I didn't even mention it to her. You're probably hoping that it was just at some point, it's like, is he gonna ask me?
I'm always prepared.
Awesome. All right, so yeah, whatever you feel like.
You want me to? Oh God, this is awful. What do you want me to read? Is there a particular one you want me to read?
No, I always find just like flip through and then just whatever lands on.
All right. Well, oddly enough, open mic.
You planned that. Come
I
on.
swear to God, I did not. I just pulled it
What?
up.
Well, I
Here
guess
it
you
is.
didn't know we were gonna talk about that.
Should I flip for another one?
No, do that. That's perfect.
Oh God, it's a long one.
It's okay, we got time.
All right. You ready? All right, here we go. Open mic. Well, here we all are, sitting in a box, gutted out by lonely hearts and dead people, dead poets whose poems never leave the pages of their backstories. Here to recite their glory, their victory from pain and tight-lipped affairs. Oh, how many nights did it take to find inspiration for the reasons why you're here? You look at me and wonder, why the fuck is she here? But I promise I have felt more than what these walls have seen. Look at all of you, gathered here like cattle, just hoping to have your 10 minutes of certainty. That's not you, but them. Quiet eyes know how crazy you really are. They can tell by the way your lips curve, by the way you linger too long on the words that end in catastrophe. You can't make your point if your sentences end with question marks. Be bold, be vicious. Wear a cape, follow the rules, and you will never make it to the finish line. I see too many faces with fine lines holding on to those last steps. The edges seduce you, but you just can't let go. I used to be one of you, but here in the light where things seem to be a little bit warmer, a little less darker in the center, there is a way to reach the other side. Tip a glass, let it go, learn to begin again. After I'm done here, you are going to forget my name. You will forget this night ever happened. The only thing you will leave within is the disappointment of yourself because you fucked up reading your own poem.
Wow, nicely done. Had that one been submitted to a journal or a magazine?
No. Not yet.
So it's like
a lot of these nobody has ever actually read before.
That's even better because it's like you're getting it fresh, like
yes.
from the main vein, as I like to say.
I've only shared a couple of these online on my Facebook page, but not very many. I like the surprise factor.
Well, and that's sometimes that's for the best, because sometimes if you get some things published and you're going to do a feature reading at a bookstore or open mic or something, people might expect you to read those things, and maybe you'll put those war horses at the beginning and the end of your set, but
right.
You gotta pepper the stuff in. And I think that it's so nice to be pleasantly surprised, where it's like, oh, I didn't know she was going to do that. Well, she's Shannon, she'll surprise you. So
I've been told I'm good at that.
Right, here's a fun one. So obviously you have friends, and you have friends that are creative people, but you probably have other friends that maybe either aren't so creative or choose not to focus on that. So have you had conversations where for them what you do seems like magic, and then for what you talk about with them for their hobbies, you're just like, well, that's your thing and you do that? Because those conversations, I think, are really crazy.
Yeah, they are crazy because they're not very creative. And sometimes it's hard to have conversations because my mind goes somewhere else. And I'm always thinking. It's like a collage of stuff up here. So I'm always, if you're not creative, it's really hard for me to keep my attention. I love creativity. And like I said, things are always working up here. So, but yeah, I have conversations with my friends all the time that are not creative, and they just don't understand what I do and how I do it, and how I can just sit here and just write something and it comes out as a poem. It's really hard for them to grasp.
Yeah, I've had conversations, not so much with friends, but with strangers or people I'm just meeting for the first time or run into out in the world, where I don't know if it's like a mental block, but they think that either things I do are things that people used to do when they were kids and should be left in childhood, or they don't see what I'm doing as work.
Right.
It's
right.
like, well, yeah, I'm not out there in 90-degree weather like digging ditches.
Right.
But that's a good thing, right?
Right. Yes.
So it's so weird because like I come from like a blue collar town, a blue collar family, and I definitely have jobs and got to pay the bills and stuff, because as of yet poetry is not a multi-million-dollar industry.
Right. I wish because I would be doing it full time.
Right. but yeah, and it's just, I don't know what it is. There's just a certain block. I talked to somebody and it's like this, and I try not to use this reference all the time because it's so old, such a dated reference. But a guy once told me, he's like, well, I just picture you guys are like, I lived in Georgia for a year. And this guy was telling me, he's like, I just picture when you people are doing that stuff, it's like that movie, The Time Machine. And I'm the one, I'm like the Morlock pushing the wheel, getting the shit done. And you guys are just the Eloy up there frolicking around, doing your crazy shit with your wine and your books and your stages and your lights. And I'm down here, I'm sweating my ass off getting stuff done. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. Somebody's got to push the wheel, my friend. I'm like, somebody's got to push the wheel.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yes. So, so have you had experiences like that?
Oh, all the time, all the time. People think that's what I do 24/7. You know, they don't know that I have a day job.
Just picture you like walking through a field, like blowing the wisps off the daisies,
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and then you're like, I wish I had some money, and then like it just rains,
Right.
like
Yes.
dollar
I mean,
bills.
I
and
wish
like,
that would happen.
la 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 la.
That would be fantastic.
I know, and you're like, tune in next week for how does Shannon get stuff done. So yeah, and then a lot of that too is or just, you know, being out in like stores or grocery stores and you start talking to people. And then I've had those conversations where like, oh yeah, I've written blah 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 and stories and scripts and poems, and people are like, oh man, I thought you were kidding. You really do that?
Right.
Yeah, like, oh,
Yes.
that like offends your intestinal fortitude. And they're just like, I don't know, man. I could just never do that. Like, what if I miss my shows? Like, what?
Right.
It's streamed, dude. Just come back. What? Just come back to it. Okay, well, so tell me what's next. What's your game plan for the next few months here?
Oddly enough, I'm actually working on my next book. Actually, I have two that I'm working on, but one specifically that I hope maybe to be done by the end of the year. So we will see. I'm actually challenging myself with this one. It's going to be a book of love poems.
Oh.
I don't write love poems.
Oh, is it going to be like Joan Jett wrote a book of love poems? What's that song she has? I hate myself for loving you.
Could be. You never know. It'll be a surprise.
I mean, you know what? You've got this like tough girl exterior, but I think that there's some stuff on the inside where it's like
a little bit, maybe.
Everybody wants to be hugged. Come on. They don't call them.
I'm learning to hug. I'm learning to hug.
They call them Care Bears, not evil death bears.
Right.
They don't call them that, do they? Okay.
Right.
So yeah, so you've got that. So are you planning on, you said you're doing some open mics, but are you going to travel around, maybe go to a couple different cities to promote the book? Or?
I may perhaps. I've been in talking with a few poet friends. We're trying to get some of that maybe scheduled, but we have been chit-chatting about that. So we will see. We'll see what happens.
So you're in Albany. Do you ever go down to New York City and catch anything there? There's a lot of stuff going on. I know you.
They do. I haven't been to the city in a really long time.
That's how I know you're from New York. You say the city.
I know. I know. Everybody assumes I'm from New York City. I wish, because there's really not much happening up this way. So, but I hope maybe someday to get down there.
No, I think it'll happen. I think the more, I know it sounds lame, but it's like the more you do, the more you will do, because your name's going to get out there. Hopefully you'll do some more interviews. I'm sure there'll be other places, things going on. So,
oh, absolutely.
Believe it or not, we're going to wrap it up here in a little bit, but I was hoping you could read another poem if you have your book handy. She does. Awkward years. Flip it open and find us a winner.
Okay, let's see. Let's find a good
That open mic was pretty spot on.
Yeah, that actually is one of my favorites that I wrote. Actually, I'll write one that I wrote about my sister.
Okay.
She battled breast cancer last year, and it was a very dark time for me. and I actually had writer's block. I couldn't write anything because that's how dark it was. But after we got through all of that, I started writing about our experiences. So I will read one about her. So this one's called Warrior, for my sister. Your scars breathe fire while telling a story of triumph. Your wings are made from courage and grace. The way you step out to greet the sun is an art form. You can harness the wind to calm a passing storm. Mountains you climb are never too high, showing strength in the deepest rivers. The darkness cannot make you fall because a warrior never stands alone.
Wow. Did you read that to her?
I did actually, and I I made a photo book of her. We did there was a fundraiser that we had for her, and we did a walk, and I put together a photo book with all the photos we took that day, and then I put the poem inside that. So it was very special.
That's really awesome and really sweet. See, I knew you had a soft cookie center. You're like this, you know.
There's one in there maybe somewhere.
Boxing against the world, but well, before we wrap it up here, I wanted to kind of give you a few minutes to kind of plug your social media. If you have a website or YouTube videos where people can see you, or anywhere that they can find your work.
Actually, I just joined the TikTok train. I know I'm a little late on that.
Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but yeah, I should.
Oh, that's why I couldn't find you. So yes, I'm on TikTok at Lady on a Wire, and I actually do plan on doing readings on there. So find me on there. You may find some readings. And I'm also on Facebook at Lady on a Wire, or you can also find me at Shannon Lynette.
Nice. See, you're out there. You're doing stuff.
I am. I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. This has been so fun.
Oh, this is fun. Lots of fun.
I mean, it's so fun to actually just see people's face and laugh, and I'll even do my funny hair and funny coffee.
I love the hair. I love the wings happening.
Today.
I'm a hairstylist. That's what I do with my day job.
Well, I can tell you got this going on. That looks really great.
I had a shaved head a year ago, so this is my grow out.
That's awesome.
So
well, thank you so much for being on the show, and I expect big things. Maybe we'll have you back on when the next book comes out.
All right.
Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.